Hi, I'm Susan Strachan, and today I'm going to be talking about the literature revision strategy that we've been using as a department at St Bernadette School in Bristol. I'm Head of English and Drama, as you can see, and I'm just going to talk you through some of the things that we've done. So every teacher had a plan with targeted lessons on all areas of the curriculum to cover. Although I'm going to show you this plan, it does have language lessons on as well as literature, but I'm not going to discuss the strategy that we used for the language focused revision. I'm only going to talk about the literature revision. Every last lesson started with some form of deliberate retrieval practice from memory. This meant that all students were engaged and all students had to recall information. We used A3 sheets with distinctive areas to complete and revise using dedicated lessons and home learnings focused on areas the class needed to work on in those lessons. We encouraged independent practice with essays and feedback dedicated to DIRT tasks. Obviously, that's directed improvement and reflection time tasks. And we, throughout the sessions, the students were encouraged to use their knowledge organisers, mini summary documents that we provided, and external resources such as the flip scorecards and the snap revision guides that they also had available. So let me just talk about the targeted lessons. Okay, so you can see on the area that we put every lesson down, every date, and then divided up the literature so that it was an interleaved approach, so that students were going from text to text and making sure that they were able to revisit everything that we had covered across the 2 years in Year 10 and Year 11 for literature. During these lessons, students were able to ask questions and have that structured revision support, so we found that really useful. The revision retrieval strategy, where we started every lesson with some form of retrieval, could look like this. So we could do Carousel Knowledge Organiser quiz on the whiteboard. Carousel is a programme that we've bought into as a school that quizzes the students. What we've done is with our knowledge organisers, we've created quizzes for each individual thing that is on the knowledge organiser. So the carousel retrieval quiz is also linked to the knowledge organiser, and then we can just select the most appropriate quizzes and put them up on the whiteboard. A really quick and simple, easy way to do retrieval, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. Then we can have 5-minute beat the teacher quotation, so that's just a form of getting the students to remember exactly what they know about a text. Any of the quotations. We also encourage them to use paraphrases. So if they can't remember exact quotations, then paraphrasing is fine. And also single word quotations are a really good strategy as well. So we would encourage them to do that and see if they would beat the teacher, for example. Then we might have a quiz written on the board and feedback completed live. So every student would be actively engaged in completing the quiz, and then I would elaborate on that, or the teacher would elaborate on the quiz information and ask students to add to what they'd already written. Then the other strategy for revision is just a memory dump. Just write down everything that you know on a specific theme or a specific character or a specific topic, and the rationale for that was to check that students were bringing information from their long-term memory back into their short-term memory, and to remind them of the areas of struggle, so that then when we were doing the revision lessons with the A3 sheets, they knew that there were areas that they needed to target. Now, obviously, retrieval is not new. Everybody is doing it. We do it every lesson anyway, so it's not really a new strategy that I'm sharing. It's just that that's how the lesson would start. So this is what it might look like. So I've just given you an example of the carousel. So you can see that the focus there is Romeo and Juliet, and I've focused on context because that was one of the areas that came up in our reflections as a class teacher and also as a department, that students were very good at AO1 and AO2, but AO3 was getting left by the wayside. So using context-focused retrieval at the start was really useful. Then you can see I've given you an example of how we would set up 5-minute Beat the Teacher. Just put a timer on the board. I would write as many quotations in silence. They would write as many quotations as they could. They would count them, and then we'd do that feedback process. So whoever had the most quotations in the class would feedback all of the quotations. Then other students would be listening and adding that to their list. And then if there were any other quotations that they also had on their list, they would then share them. So it was a really quick and effective 5-minute strategy at the beginning to get them thinking, and then another 5 minutes for the feedback so that they can get the as much information down as possible. And then I would add any that I had that they didn't have. So that's kind of how it would work. Then we would have, as I said about the quiz for retrieval, this one is focused on Romeo. And then when we were doing the feedback, I would elaborate on the information that they're giving. So there would be lots and lots of teacher talk to reinforce knowledge. And then the memory dump, I would circulate and have a look at how people were getting on. I might choose 1 or 2 students to read out exactly what they had, and then ask people to add on to that as well. So all of the retrieval strategies have some form of feedback involved in them to help the students listen and learn from each other. I think that on reflection, it is a really useful strategy because you can see gaps in knowledge. You promote the independent thinking that we're looking for. It makes students understand what they can remember easily and what they actually don't know, because you don't know what you don't know until you've practiced trying to bring back information into your short-term memory, to the front of your memory. You know what I mean. And then it's also a useful strategy to target specific areas of text, because obviously I can manipulate what I'm asking at the beginning of the lesson based on what I think the students need. The A3 revision sheets, so that brings me on to the kind of main focus of the session. So the A3 revision sheets were really deliberate targeted areas with planning strategies to ensure that the students had covered all of the literature text. I'm going to show you some feedback sheets that were completed over time with Year 11. Unfortunately, I didn't keep that many of them, so there's only a couple of completed examples. But what I would do is I would introduce it, do a detailed teacher model on the first box on the A3 sheet, which you'll see in a moment, under the visualizer. And then I would elaborate on what I was thinking when I was completing it. And then with access to the notes, the students would then complete those revision A3 sheets, and they'd be able to take them home at the end of the lesson. Or if I wanted it to last slightly longer than one lesson, I would continue that in the next lesson, and then you would take them home after that. So the rationale was that they'd have that double 1-page guide to take home. It gave them structured revision. It gave them an opportunity to discuss and have feedback in class. It gave them the opportunity to plan multiple essays in class so that they were really, really consolidating that knowledge, ready for the exam. And I and my other team members in the department would be continuously answering questions, asking questions, and giving targeted support as students were working on these. So I would go around the class, and students would be able to talk, to discuss in pairs with each other, as long as they were really working hard on the sheets. So you can see here, here's a completed example for power and conflict. So this is a context and intentions focus, because again, like I said before, context and intentions were something that students were finding difficult to do. The students did it independently, and then this is what I wrote under the visualizer with them at the end. So I got them, this was through Q&A, so I got them to tell me what they remembered, and we made sure that we had one context point and one intention point for each of the poems. So you can see that here. Some are easier than others, if I'm honest. And then we looked at planning 3 ideas for the anthology poems with a specific focus on different questions that might come up. And as you can see, the feedback got less detailed. So in the first example, in the first box, that was my model. And then in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we just came up with the ideas. And then they were charged with getting all of the quotations that they could remember and use. Then we've got an animal farm context and intentions. They're better at animal farm context, I think, because the book itself lends itself so well to context focus. But it was just a reminder that they do need to use that. And also to think about what Orwell was intending us to understand from each of the different areas that I put onto the sheet. And then we've got an animal farm planning exercise. Now, I didn't just do planning, okay, so that on these A3 sheets. We did other exercises as well, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment, okay? So you can see here, this is a Power and Conflict, just a summary of the poem story. Here was a planning document for A Christmas Carol, what start quotations and methods on different areas, so supernatural, family, etc. And then at the bottom here, we've got a quotation and then context and intentions link, and we've got a theme document, so getting them to link the text to the themes in the story to just reinforce their overall knowledge. And what I've done here is, because this was Shakespeare, and what we identified was that some students were still struggling to remember where things happened and the kind of sequencing of events. So what I've done is I've put a sequence of events on the side of the page, so they've got that in front of them. Then what I'd say is I think that these did have a big impact. They found them useful, they took them home, they completed them, they asked questions around them. Students who were coming to revision sessions after school as well were having a look at them, and they were asking to have a copy of them. They wanted them on Google Classrooms because they wanted to sort of then do it again. They asked a lot of questions to clarify and consolidate in a short space of time. And they were adding to their own sheets during the feedback, which was a really quick, fast-paced activity. I had Mr. Mon-Jones in with me supporting with some of the lessons, and he was amazed by students' ability to think and feedback on the 15 anthology poems in such a short space of time. So we did actually do the 15 poems in 1 hour, which was super fast, to be fair. The department also used these, and Nikki Cavell, and one of our teachers of English and Drama, stated that they were something tangible to take away. They were great for high ability as they could use them for loads of information, but equally valuable to low prior retainers, as they could have at least 3 moments on there, and they were really good to be used as a consolidation exercise after other targeted input. I just wanted to share with you as well what these the things that we used alongside the A3 revision. So students could use their memory, but also we would provide them with a mini summary, which is here. It's just this one is A Christmas Carol, but we have these for all of the texts, and it's stave by stave summary of what happens, quotations, context and intentions. And then we also have knowledge organisers, which you can see are 2-page documents linking to each text. On there we have some vocabulary, we have a breakdown of context, we've got a breakdown of the story, we've got a breakdown of quotations by character or by theme. So they've got almost everything that they need to know in those documents. And then we also used the Flipsco cards, which you can see is a copy of the Romeo and Juliet here. So we have class sets of those, and students find them really useful because they've got lots of information on them, and they can flip through the flashcards, they can pull out the different pieces of information that they want to use. So that was used alongside the A3 revision strategy to help the students. So these resources you'll be able to find as well. So I've got the session slides and A3 revision document sheets, the literature knowledge organisers, a link to the Flipsco website, the Carousel Learning website. You might have heard of Adam Boxer. I think he is the kind of mastermind behind that. And I've also added all of the knowledge organisers, the mini summaries, etc., into the area for these. And the last bit is just my questions for you. And so I've got 3 questions. So how would this be useful in your setting? Is there a benefit to breaking revision down like this? And how can retrieval strengthen students' ability to recall in exam situations? Like I said, I'm Susan Strachan. I hope this has been useful, and I'm going to stop now. Thanks.